Welcome back to Coffee and Cartridges. I'm just going to drink some donut shop coffee today. We're going to talk about rifle cartridges. Stay tuned. Alright, so I want to talk about bullets today. Probably going to go into a little bit of controversial topic and make a few controversial statements. But I just want to, before I get into my opinion, kind of give you a basic understanding of the different types of bullets that are on the market today and what their function is. And I know most of my subscribers, if not all, will already know all this, but I think it's an interesting topic. But if anyone comes across this who is not familiar with hunting bullets, for instance, it could be hopefully pretty interesting to you. There are three main types of hunting bullets: your cup and core, your bonded bullets, and your monolithic bullets. And before I get specifically into those three, which is mainly what this video is about, I do want to throw out some other types of bullets. Now this video is going to be primarily about these three types of hunting bullets, but there are other kinds of bullets, and I want to focus on that for a second. So referring to cup and core, there's variations of the cup and core. And just to be clear, a cup and core is simply a lead bullet, but it's not a cast bullet. It is surrounded by a copper jacket. And generally speaking, the copper jacket is thin and it is designed to expand easily. The types of bullets that have been around for the past 75 years that hunters have been using across the world and here in America, of course, are typically cup and core style bullets. There is a full metal jacket version of this, which is primarily used for the military. And it simply is the same type of bullet, but designed not to expand. And so it doesn't have a hollow point, or it doesn't have a design feature in the front of the bullet causing it to mushroom. And therefore it simply stays together, penetrates a hole the size of the bullet, the size of the caliber, the diameter of the bullet, and it goes all the way through. This is designed to penetrate body armor or whatever the case. The complete worst bullet imaginable for hunting. It has no expansion, it just penetrates. Can be good for military use. Another type of cup and core bullet that we're not really going to be talking a whole lot about today is a varmint style bullet. A varmint style bullet is simply a cup and core bullet that is bordering on the extreme when it comes to frangibility. It's literally made to just blow up inside of the animal. Now we will be talking about some kind of VLD bullets here shortly that do a similar thing, but not exactly the same. But when it comes to a varmint style bullet, you're not looking for blood loss, you're not looking for penetration, you're looking for eradication. You're looking to terminate quickly an animal. And so if that bullet enters into the varmint, shatters into a million pieces, destroys all the meat of the animal, it's okay, because you're not looking, it's not a game animal. You're not looking to hunt it anyway. And then the last style of cup and core bullet that we're not really going to talk about today is your match bullets. Almost all of them will be a cup and core style bullet. And once again, how the bullet expands or does not expand, holds together, does not hold together, is irrelevant because you're not shooting game. You're hitting a paper target or a gong or whatever kind of target that you're shooting at long range. So a match bullet is more about the aerodynamics of the bullet, how consistently that it is manufactured so that it does the same thing every time you shoot it, the lots are consistent, and that it will have a high BC and be consistent in its flight to hit the same spot as accurately as possible. Okay, but we're talking today about hunting bullets that are designed for expansion to kill an animal because you're going to eat the animal, because it's a game species. And so the key function that we're looking for is terminal ballistics. How is the design and construction of the bullet developed? Therefore, how will it react once it hits the game animal, causing determination of the animal, and how it will be about. What's it caused to do? What's the point behind the bullet? So let me go over the 3 primary examples of hunting bullets. I've already talked about the cup and core style bullet. Been around a long time. When you just go to Walmart or to your local gun store and you get Remington core locks or Winchester power points or Federal soft points, just a standard hunting bullet, it's more than likely going to be cup and core. It's been around the longest. It is the cheapest, the most easy to be made, and it's been killing animals successfully for a long time. Now, let me give you some characteristics of a cup and core bullet. One, more than likely, depending on distance and velocity, it's not going to hold together. What I mean by that is the jacket and the core, the lead core, more than likely will become separated, at least partially or completely. And even the jacket itself will probably separate into tiny fragments. Not all bullets are the same. Not all brands or designs are the same. So it's not going to be the same in every case. But if you're looking for a bullet to completely stay together, have an even and consistent expansion as it penetrates, cup and core, probably not the most ideal. I will venture this guess that when they were designed, that would have been nice, but they couldn't figure out a way to make that happen without really making the bullets very expensive at the time. And so the current manufacturing processes at that time just made it easier to create a cup and core style bullet. And they knew basically it is going to come apart. It is going to not penetrate the perfect, but that's okay because we definitely don't want a full metal jacket. We want something that causes disruption and and expands to kill that animal as quickly as possible with as much blood loss as possible. Once again, depends on the animal. An antelope and a moose are 2 different things. Cup and core bullet could very much penetrate all the way through and expand and do a perfect job in an antelope, but maybe not in a moose, but it depends on a ton of factors. All right, on to a bonded bullet. A bonded bullet is very easy to explain. It's simply a cup and core bullet, but it's kind of designed to keep the core and the jacket together. So as it hits the game animal and begins to expand, the core doesn't fly out of the jacket, and the jacket typically is thicker, will not expand quite as easily, but will still expand at the appropriate velocities, but will not break into as many pieces. Some pieces will break off. You'll not get 100% weight retention very commonly. Very rarely will you get 100% weight retention out of a bonded bullet, but much better weight retention compared to a cup and core. So in all honesty, it's kind of an improvement, kind of an update to the standard cup and core bullet. So if you compare just a standard bonded bullet versus a standard cup and core style, a traditional hunting bullet, in my opinion, the bonded bullet is just an update. It's just a better version of it. And probably what the original designers of the cup and core bullet would have designed had they been able to do it in a cost-efficient way. And speaking of cost, generally speaking, your bonded bullets are more expensive. A monolithic bullet is simply a solid metal bullet. Hence the term mono. It's not lead and copper. It is simply one type of metal. Now that's not 100% true anymore because it's the Barnes bullets, for instance, are the first monolithic bullets I ever heard of, and they're all copper. But every manufacturer has a type of monolithic bullet today, whether you're talking about the Hornady CX, the Nosler E-tip, so on and so forth. But most of those are an alloy mixture, so it's part copper, part something other metal. So the monolithic alloy style of bullet kind of is a play on words, kind of an oxymoron. But point being, it's all a similar type of harder metal with no lead core in it. Now you might say, well, that would penetrate great, better than a cup and core or a bonded bullet. However, it wouldn't expand, and you're right, but they design it to expand. So a TSX, for instance, is kind of a hollow point design. The TTSX has a plastic tip, like a polymer tip at the front, which will aid in the expansion as it pushes back. Also, the front half of the bullet has lines in it that are intentionally, not lines, but has like the front half of the bullet is designed in a way to separate, like a banana peel kind of, and have petals that fold back and cause expansion and cause massive damage. However, it's much more likely that they'll stay connected to the base bullet because it's solid, one type of metal or an alloy mixture. So generally speaking, cup and core, the advantage, it's available, it's common, it's cheap, and it does a good job at killing. There is no question about that. And the advantages of a bonded bullet is it will penetrate better, its weight retention will be much better, more than likely will have an exit wound when you won't sometimes with the cup and core, and it will be more consistent at distances and velocities. The advantages of a monolithic bullet is the best penetration of the three, the best weight retention of the three. Now, what are the downsides to each? Downside to a cup and core is it's so frangible, it's got the worst weight retention, worst penetration. Therefore, it may damage more meat than you want it to, and it may not penetrate all the way through if that's what your desire is, and therefore you might not have as good of a blood trail if you don't quickly terminate the animal. Disadvantages of a bonded bullet? Really, I don't see one unless you have a desired effect that you want the bullet to do. Say you're varmint hunting, you want the bullet to blow up, okay? Or you want extreme penetration, maybe you should go with something else. But a bonded bullet, in all honesty, like if you watch this video and you're not sure which one to go with, you're not gonna go wrong with a bonded bullet. Another downside though, so it really doesn't have any downsides other than if you're just looking for something cheap, it is typically a little bit more expensive than a standard cup and core bullet. Downside to a monolithic bullet is it has to be going faster to expand properly, okay? A cup and core will expand the easiest at the slower speeds. Bonded, always in the middle, it's like the balance all the time. A monolithic, of course, has the best expansion, has the best weight retention, but for it to get to its full expansion has to be going really fast because that metal is just so much harder than what lead is. Now, before I get to my opinions on which is the best, let me tell you, there are a few other exceptions. So there's kind of some hybrids. For instance, a very classic hunting bullet is a Nosler partition. What is a Nosler partition? Well, it basically is a hybrid. The front half of the bullet is just a cup and core bullet, and the back half of the bullet acts very similar to a full metal jacket. So there's literally a wall in the middle going horizontally through the bullet that separates the front lead core from the back lead core. The front lead core is just a cup and core. It's made to expand easily, very soft tip. In fact, more than likely will blow into pieces and sending shrapnel throughout the animal. But the back half of the bullet is basically a full metal jacket that will not expand, but will penetrate. So depending on what you're looking for, a hybrid bullet like a partition could be the best of both worlds. There are also a bonded bullet like an AccuBond long range that is a bonded bullet, however, is softer and kind of a hybrid between a bonded bullet and a cup and core. Therefore, at longer distances, it will open up a little easier than a standard bonded bullet. And then you have something like a Barnes LRX, which is a monolithic bullet, yet designed for longer ranges, once again, to expand a little easier, more similar to a bonded bullet or a cup and core. So which one is better? Now, my answer might come across boring, but it's also going to be a little controversial because A lot of people today are very much in one camp or the other, and they very much dislike certain bullets for certain applications. But my answer is this: all three have their place in our modern day, including, and here's the controversial one, your VLD type hunting bullets. I believe they do have a very practical reason for their existence, and I believe they do have a place. So let me get into it. Based on what I've just explained, here's my overall philosophy. The closer you are in distance to where you think you're going to be shooting your game, is it 50 to 100 yards, maybe even up to 200 yards, I tend to think a monolithic is just a better bullet overall because of the great expansion and great weight retention. It really does a great job. It's going to go through, it's going to cause a consistent amount of damage, and it is going to cause a lot of blood loss with the least amount of meat damage with a proper shot placement. And at close ranges, your velocity is very high. Therefore, there should not be an issue with expansion. So up close, I think a monolithic bullet is perfect. Medium distances, I think a bonded bullet is perfect because it's the most consistent. It doesn't have to have quite the velocity to expand as a monolithic bullet does. It's not as frangible as a cup and core bullet. It's more consistent, and when you're not really sure the distance you're going to have, and it's hard to really pinpoint a specific application for your bullet, I think a bonded bullet is your best choice. It's the better all-around bullet for whatever that you need. And then at long distance, I would consider a cup and core bullet potentially the best. Now that's where the controversy is going to come in. First of all, let me say, when I say long range hunting, I'm not talking about 1,000 yards. I'm probably not even talking about 700 yards. I'm talking about just a general distance I'll throw out there, 400 to 500 yards. But that could be a whole video in itself. It depends on the game you're shooting. It depends on the terrain that you're in. And is it mountainous? Is that a normal? Is 400 yards a very standard shot for the area that you're in? Can you get closer? Should you get closer? What's the velocity? What's the energy at those distances? Have you practiced at those distances and know the trajectory, know how to work your scope? And most importantly, how is your bullet constructed? Is it constructed to perform for that application at that long range? So there's a ton of factors. And unfortunately, if you don't know all those factors and you're not prepared to answer those, you can do a lot of unethical practices and damage at those ranges. There are people out west that consistently take what I would consider ethical and lethal shots at those distances and harvest game every year because they know what they're doing and they've answered all those questions that I just put forth. Other people think shooting at game at long range is similar to shooting at targets at long range and just keep fire until you hit. In my opinion, that's very unethical and should not be practiced. So don't think I'm talking about that type of long range hunting. That does go on. I don't agree with it, and I don't think it's okay. Another common complaint would be, well, if you have to go to a cup and core bullet at those distances, maybe you're too far away anyway, and you should get within range that a bonded bullet or a monolithic bullet can perform their expansion properly. And so that's kind of a litmus test or a standard to go by. I have no problem with that logic. In fact, it sounds good. But not everyone's the same. And so this is where I'm going to bring up probably the most controversial part of this video is your ELDX, your Burgers bullets, things like that. Is there a place for those in hunting game? I say that there is. Let me explain what I mean. First of all, a lot of people, a lot of friends of mine, a lot of family hate those type of bullets and think that they're worthless on game. Now, if you have a preference, you say, I like this type of bullet, it works for me, fits what I want to do, and I'm going to use it, perfect. If it works for you, keep on doing it. But just because you don't like the bullet doesn't mean it's wrong for someone else to like it. So I'm going to try to explain that today. First of all, we need to understand what the bullet is purporting to do, what the companies are saying it does, and then are you expecting something else? Are you expecting a different result? So for instance, if a bullet developer or manufacturer said, buy our monolithic bullet, it will expand perfectly, even down to 500 feet per second. You know and I know that's not true. That's not going to happen, okay? So that would be a reason to be upset. If you have a developer or manufacturer of a VLD style cup and core bullet and they tell you that it's not going to blow up into pieces, it's going to hold together very similar to a bonded bullet, even at 50 to 75 yards, you and I both know that's not true. But is the manufacturer being honest with what it's going to do? For instance, with like burgers, I've shot burgers VLD out of my 6.5 284. You can clearly look at their promotional material and they will tell you that bullet is designed to penetrate about 2 to 3 inches and then basically just blow up, okay, like a grenade. Similar to a varmint style bullet, however, the difference between a varmint and a VLD bullet is the VLD bullet is designed for long range, aerodynamic, high BC, and then penetrate 3 inches and blow up. Varmint bullet is typically not high BC, it's just going ultra fast and it just blows up. And it's really not even designed to go a couple inches in, it's just designed to kill. And I would say it's even more frangible. So if you understand what a VLD bullet is supposed to do, then you can make a choice. You say, oh, I don't like that. I don't want a bullet that does that. Okay, that's fine. Maybe someone else does, and I'll get to that later. But then if you shoot that bullet and it does exactly what it's supposed to do, but it doesn't penetrate, and you're mad that it doesn't penetrate all the way through and have an exit wound where blood is being lost from the injury and the exit wound, what are you expecting that bullet to do? It's not designed to do that. So don't get mad at a cup and core VLD bullet for not acting like a monolithic bullet or acting like a bonded bullet. Understand what the bullet's designed to do. And if you don't like what it's designed to do, don't buy it, buy something else. So just to be clear, I have no problems with a person having an opinion on any bullet. Go with what works for you, go with what you like, go with what it's intended to do, and understand what it's intended to do. But to maybe have a false expectation of a bullet and be mad that it doesn't perform, that's silly. So don't even buy the bullet if you don't want it. The overall point I'm making is not everyone has the same expectations. So let me give you for instance. Maybe somebody has quite a bit of experience with a VLD style bullet. Maybe they have shot an animal and didn't hit him behind the shoulder, but hit him right on the shoulder. And maybe it didn't penetrate like it was supposed to. It just kind of blew up, didn't go through, animal ran off, whatever the case. And so now they hate that bullet and they'll never use it again. Okay, I've heard of that happening. If you just research forums on the internet and just see VLD, good for hunting, bad for hunting, you're gonna get probably an equal number of stories on both sides. I will say this, here's another controversial statement. The majority of people who like them have used them. At least half the people who hate them don't actually use them, they just don't like what they think they'll do. Having said that, there are stories of people who say, nope, I have used them and they don't work like I wanted them to, and here's what they did. So there are real life examples of people who used a VLD bullet, didn't like the results, which is fine. But were they expecting what was supposed to happen? I don't know. You're gonna have fans and haters of all three kinds of bullets, okay? In fact, even the other ones that I mentioned that aren't just part of these main three, there's always gonna be fans, there's always gonna be haters. You know, I've watched many videos of people using Berger VLD bullets at short range, long range, deer drops, deer drops, deer drops, elk drops, doesn't run, doesn't move. Now, did it blow up a bunch of meat in the inside? The potential is there, okay? So I want to talk about that for a second. Maybe you're a guy who does like or has shot bullets for years with the penetration, okay? Bullet penetrated all the way through, had an exit wound and an entry wound, but I didn't quite hit the animal right where I wanted to, and it went 300 or 400 yards, and I had to just basically go back the next morning, and it took a long time. I was able to follow the blood trail because there was a blood trail because of the exit wound, but I feel bad that the animal suffered for that long, okay? And maybe I've heard people that have had that happen multiple times. They didn't exactly hit where they wanted. They didn't quite hit the heart, didn't go through both lungs, whatever the case. Did find the deer later, but again, after again, they just decide, you know what? Dang it. I hate that I'm causing that animal to die a slow and painful death. Some people don't care about that. Some people do. I would. I've made some bad shots and I felt terrible. And I love to hunt. I love to kill animals that I'm going to eat. I love to eat them. I love everything about hunting, but I want that animal to die as quickly as possible. Now you say, well, that's why you can't make a bad shot. But life happens. We can't always make the perfect shot. And then also maybe someone did trail blood for 300 or 400 yards and still never found the deer. And maybe that deer went on to die, maybe it didn't, but they just hate that. So for some people, a VLD bullet that goes in 3 inches, blows up, maybe it does cause more meat damage than it should, but the animal went 5 feet, dropped, end of story, a more ethical death. So different people are going to look at this in different ways. Maybe you are a neck shooter and you don't eat the neck. Maybe you are okay with a little bit of shoulder damage, a little bit of rib meat damage. In the big scope of things, it's not a big deal to have a little bit of meat damage versus an ethical, quick death. That's a very real possibility. So I just want to throw it out there that just because you don't like a style of bullet doesn't mean someone else might not have a different way of looking at it. So I think there is definitely a time for all three bullets. So which is the better? Here's the way I look at it. The closer you're shot, go with a monolithic bullet. The further away you're shot, and please, I'm talking about ethical distances where you know the distance, the velocity, the energy. Bullet is constructed to do what it's supposed to do and can still do that at those distances. You've practiced and you're capable of doing it. A cup and core bullet, especially a VLD bullet, is better suited for that task. And then if anything in between you're just not sure, go with a bonded bullet. You will be fine. Now, you might be the guy that says, well, I just prefer the LRX for everything. Great. Or you might be the guy that says, well, I've been shooting Nosler partitions for 50 years and they continue to work. Great. By the way, those people watching, if you hate a Berger VLD or a Hornady ELDX because it blows up inside, at least half of your partition bullets doing the same thing. So just understand that people might want something different out of their bullet, okay? They might want it to do something different. Some people might say, I want to preserve as much meat as possible, not really concerned how long it takes that deer to die. I know I'm a good shot. I know I'm going to hit it right where I want it to. It's not going to go very far. Other people might say, just in case I don't hit it right where I want it to, I want a bullet that blows up inside. If it ruins a little bit of meat, but yet it's an ethical death and I still get the 90% of the meat, then it's okay for me. So people just look at things differently. One last thing about the VLD bullets, I'm a big fan because, okay, let me just back up for a second. Standard cup and core bullet versus a bonded bullet. Unless price and availability is your concern, I don't know why you would rather have a cup and core over a bonded. Once again, I think just a standard, like let's say a Remington core lock versus a Nosler AccuBond, I just don't see why you would pick the Remington core lock. Why would you go with that older style bullet? And I know the core lock is kind of supposed to be like a bonded bullet, but really it's not. Or let's just say a Winchester PowerPoint. In all honesty, if you want consistency and penetration, I don't know why you would pick a cup and core over a bonded, because a bonded is just an improvement. It's just going to do what the cup and core should have done all along, and it's going to do it better, in my opinion. But at long ranges, at slower speeds, you definitely want something that's going to cause more disruption, not just to cause a pencil hole through an animal at long ranges and then that animal goes for 500 yards and then dies, or you're just lobbing bullet after bullet in there trying to kill it because the bullets are not expanding properly. There's a lot of variables here, I know, but potentially the longer you get, the less expansion, and Monolithic's going to get less expansion to a lesser degree. The bonded bullet's going to get, the better off a cup and core bullet's going to be at ethical distances. So when I think of cup and core bullets, don't try to make a cup and core bullet a bonded bullet. Don't try to compare a cup and core bullet to a monolithic bullet. It's not going to do the same thing. It's going to fail miserably at penetration and weight retention. So don't compare them thinking about those factors. Understand what the cup and core bullet is going to do and how it's different, and emphasize its difference. Focus on its difference. Realize how it can be different and what it can be used for. If you're not looking for max penetration and max weight retention, and you've already got that out of your mind, you're not trying to make a cup and core into something it's not. What's the greatest cup and core bullet? It's the VLD bullets. You have high BC, therefore it's going to hold as much it's going to lose energy slower than a standard bullet. So when it hits its target at, let's say, 400 yards, it's retained more of its energy, more of its killing power. Also, those longer ogive bullets, those longer high BC bullets are also going to have a higher sectional density, usually. Better for a little bit penetration at longer ranges. Also, the BC is going to cause it to lose its velocity slower. So it's going to retain more velocity, retain more energy, probably have a higher sectional density. All that's good for killing at long range, okay? And then when it does get there, it's going to easily expand compared to something else because it's cup and core, and it's going to blow up, and you're going to have a better potential to terminate that animal quicker and more ethically at a longer range. So I do like the VLD bullets. Now, if you think you should go get a 30-30 and and hand load it with a VLD bullet and go into the woods at 50 yards and shoot a deer, that's not what I'm saying. Please don't do that. So here's my official answer. Of the three kinds of bullet, what's the best? Best for short range, in my opinion, monolithic. Best for medium ranges, bonded bullet. Best for long range, a VLD style cup and core bullet. And this goes hand in hand with best for high velocity, monolithic bullet. Medium velocity, bonded bullet. Slow velocity, VLD style cup and core bullet. So that's my mindset when it comes to bullets. Understand the bullet. Do your research. Know what the bullet is designed to do. Know what the manufacturer's telling you it's going to do. Know what velocity it needs to have to do that. Know your distances. Know your cartridge. Know all those things. Practice with it and think it through. Plan it out. Don't just grab the first bullets that you find. You can easily go to Bass Pro right now and get 308 bullets that are full metal jacket and they're made for target shooting, and you could go hunt with that. Bad idea. Zero expansion. So do your research, and if you do your research, you know what you're talking about, and then what kind of kill are you looking to perform? How are you looking to terminate that animal? That should tell you what kind of bullet to go with based on the distance you're shooting, the desired application, the desired effect, knowing how fast that bullet's coming out of the muzzle and all those things. So this went on for a long time. I'll cut it there. Great drinking coffee with you. Great talking about, in this case, bullets. And hopefully you have a great day. Until next time, take care.